So today I'm going to talk to you about my latest drawing, Sean O'Malley, SUGA Sean O'Malley from the UFC. I am personally a really big fan of the UFC, and I was really excited to watch Sean fight recently after a massive 2-year layoff. I think he's such an awesome guy, really crazy, interesting personality. I have a good feeling that he's going to become a pretty big name in the UFC. His crazy new hair and his new look I thought was really, really cool. So I thought I'd have a go at drawing him. You will see that process coming up very soon. I'm very excited to announce that this drawing will actually be shipped to Sean himself. He was cool enough to give me his address to ship to him. So Sean, you'll be getting this in a couple weeks, and hopefully I'll hear something back from you, and I hope he likes the drawing. This was a really fun and exciting drawing to make. You'll see at the beginning of this video, I had a really difficult time at the start of this drawing. Because of Sean's large afro curly hair, which is like absolutely massive, really played around with my sense of scale and proportion. So I struggled, as you'll see at the beginning of the drawing, to actually get a reasonable composition sorted. I made the drawing way too small for the size of the paper 2 times before I finally settled on the size that I was happy with. You'll see that these decisions, as frustrating as they were really mitigated by the fact that I was using a brush with some charcoal powder to make the initial blocking in strokes and marks. So although it was really frustrating, that was a massive aid for me in being able to quickly renegotiate the shapes and proportions of this drawing based on my reference image. I personally don't like to grid out and that sort of thing. It really just isn't for me. Maybe I'll have to give it a real good go sometime, but I found that kind of intuiting proportion has been a really exciting challenge for me over the course of my kind of training and practice. So for me it was it's always really frustrating, and I'm always expecting to make mistakes which make me feel super embarrassed at the time, but it's being keen and ready to make these mistakes, which always means that you're going to be willing to improve and make these mistakes slightly less often every time that you pick up a pencil or a paintbrush. This for me becomes easier over time. I think when you're a beginner to making art of any kind, drawing, painting, sculpting, printmaking, web design, digital drawing, anything like that, making something bad can be crushing. It's something which really takes a lot for you to pick yourself up and not be, for me anyway, and I know a lot of people, not be embarrassed by making something that looks crap, by having the enthusiasm and the humility to try again, and even though you made something which you know doesn't look how you want it to look, doing something difficult, working at it again and again and again, and learning how over time to make those mistakes less often, to put the line in the correct place, like, 1% more often is a good place to start. I think if you're expecting to make something which looks perfect the first time you put a pencil to paper, then you aren't going to be a very good artist. It's very unlikely anyway. I think it takes a lot of humility. I think a relaxed approach, someone who's open to, like I said, making mistakes and going through these iterations of making something look off or not quite right and learning how to overcome those things. So that's why I go back to that blocking in process that I used with the brush. For me, it was such an important step because it made those mistakes happen faster. It's a phrase that is really useful. If you're going to fail, and you are, fail fast, fail often, and that means that you're getting through those iterations faster without putting so much time and weight on yourself. You're not scared to make these mistakes, and that's not going to slow down your progress, and it's not going to make those kind of defeats so much more crushing. So allow yourself to fail easily, allow yourself to fail quickly, and then you're going to see more positive results more quickly, and you're not going to be so hung up on perfection either. And I think that's a really important part to a lot of people's work, to not be so rigid in the way that you make your work because you're so scared of making mistakes. It's a really common problem, particularly even with experienced artists. If you're investing in more expensive materials when usually you're used to working with cheap paints or cheap materials or an inexpensive paper, when you start spending a bit of money on nicer paints or nicer paper, you don't want to mess it up. You don't want to waste that money that you put into it. But it's so important that you work with those materials the same way that you would with what you have been the whole time that you've been practicing. So yeah, I think that was, I hope that you found some part of that quite interesting. I will say that the drawing here, like I said, the original is going to Sean himself. There are, however, prints of this very drawing available on my website right now, so if you do want to support me, I would really appreciate it. The link below to my online store will be in the description of this video. All prints are signed and are on like beautiful quality fine art paper, really heavy ink prints. They look absolutely fantastic, so I would really appreciate it. If you do want to support me, that is the best way to do so. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.